All right, let's talk about the most mysterious, extreme, and probably most misunderstood place on our entire planet, Antarctica. Seriously, this place is just a continent of contradictions. It completely messes with what we think we know about the world. So let's dive in and see what's really going on beyond all that ice. Okay, so let me start with a question for you, kind of like a riddle. What if I told you that the world's biggest desert wasn't sand at all? What if it was actually covered in trillions of tons of ice? Sounds crazy, right? But that paradox, that one idea, is really the key to understanding just how wild Antarctica is. All right, first up, a world of extremes. We're talking cold, windy, and surprisingly dry. And, to call this place a world of extremes is honestly a massive understatement. The conditions there are they're unlike anything else on Earth. They really push the limits of what you'd think is even possible. So just how extreme are we talking? Well, get this. The lowest temperature ever recorded on the surface of the Earth happened right here, a mind-boggling minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That's minus 89.2 degrees Celsius. Just wow. And to put that into perspective for you, that's colder than your freezer. I mean, it's not just a little bit cold, it's a kind of cold that most of us can't even really wrap our heads around. It's way, way colder than the inside of your freezer at home. And this actually brings us right back to that riddle I mentioned. You see, a desert isn't defined by sand or heat. It's defined by how little rain or snow it gets. And believe it or not, Antarctica gets even less precipitation than the Sahara. That makes it, technically, the driest continent on the entire planet. All that water isn't falling from the sky. It's just been locked up in that massive ice sheet for thousands and thousands of years. So, okay, life on the ice. Let's talk about the real inhabitants of the continent. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the coldest, driest place on Earth must be totally lifeless, right? But that couldn't be more wrong. It's time to meet the real locals. First things first, let's be clear about who doesn't live there. People. Antarctica is the only continent with absolutely zero permanent human residents. No towns, no cities, nothing like that. The only people you'll find are small groups of super dedicated scientists who stay there temporarily at their research stations. But just because we can't make a permanent home there doesn't mean it's empty. Oh no. In fact, it's home to millions of these guys. The entire continent is absolutely ruled by them, and they are perfectly built for these insane conditions. Yep, penguins, millions of them. They are the true rulers of this icy kingdom. You've got all kinds, including the famous emperor penguin, the biggest species in the world. And it's not just on the ice. The ocean around it is bursting with life. It's a critical feeding ground for giant whales. We're talking blue whales and humpbacks that travel thousands of miles just to chow down on these tiny little shrimp-like critters called krill. Okay, next up, a land of hidden secrets, a fiery past and a dynamic present. So we've got an ice-covered desert that's ruled by penguins. Pretty weird, right? But believe me, the surprises do not stop there. Because hidden underneath all that ice, Antarctica has a really dramatic history and an even more dynamic present. This is what's truly incredible. If you went back millions of years, Antarctica wouldn't be this frozen world. Not at all. It was actually warm and green. It was covered in forests and dinosaurs roamed around. Today, it's covered in ice and even has active volcanoes. It's just an amazing reminder that our planet is always changing, and even the most extreme places weren't always the way they are now. And yeah, I said volcanoes. The continent is still very much geologically alive. This right here is Mount Erebus. It's an active volcano that literally pokes out through the ice. It even spews lava sometimes, which is just insane to think about in that freezing cold. It is one of the only places on the planet where you can see molten lava in the middle of a polar landscape. A true land of fire and ice for sure. And the extremes don't stop there. They even apply to something as basic as day and night. So check this out. During the summer, the sun shines 24 hours a day. It just never sets. But then, come winter, it's the complete opposite. It's dark all the time. Months of total darkness. Can you even imagine that? So let's talk about why this all matters, our shared continent and its global importance. I mean, it's a super remote, kind of bizarre place, right? So why should we, thousands of miles away, even care? Well, the simple answer is because Antarctica is absolutely critical to the health of our entire planet. And here's the biggest reason why. Look at this.
A staggering 70% of all the fresh water on Earth is locked up in Antarctica's ice. 70%! That makes it, by far, the planet's single largest reservoir of fresh water. You can think of it as the world's biggest ice cube, basically.
So, who owns this huge, incredibly important continent? Who's in charge? The answer, actually, is pretty amazing. No one. No single country owns Antarctica. It's one of the most hopeful stories of international cooperation, really. No one is allowed to just plant a flag and claim it. Instead, the whole continent is governed by something called the Antarctic Treaty. It's this incredible agreement between nations all over the world, and it basically says this entire continent is shared by all of us. It's dedicated purely to science and research, and we all have to work together to protect its fragile environment. It's a real model for how countries can cooperate to preserve something precious for everybody. And all of this brings us to one final and really urgent question. We've established that Antarctica holds most of our planet's fresh water. We know it's a shared continent, protected for all of us. So the big question we're left with is this. As our planet continues to warm, what happens when the world's biggest ice cube starts to melt?